Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today we have the ThinkPad X61T. This would be pretty much the last tablet laptop like this that was in a standard 4:3 ratio. The next one would be the X200T, which I believe does not have the same form factor. If you are looking for a 4:3 that's a tablet that's ThinkPad, this is pretty much your last and probably best option that was out there. Let's just quickly go through the CPUs that were included. It's pretty straightforward. Intel Core 2 Duo, and it was either the L7300, the L7500, or the L7700. They came with usually 4 gigabytes of RAM from the factory, and they maxed out at 8 gigabytes of RAM. The particular model here is the middle of the road. It's the L7500 and is currently rocking 4 gigabytes of RAM. There were 3 main display types available with this. One was the XGA with no touch support for fingers, and it was actually the same display as the X60T, and it maxed out the display resolution at 1040 by 768. There was an XGA version that did offer touch support, and then there was an XGA Plus, which was a non-direct bonding display, which was 1400 by 1050. Those displays are pretty rare, and they command some high prices, and I've also read that they have some issues with the direct bonding process, so just keep that in mind if you're chasing it down. In fact, there are people that have had so many issues that there is an entire community around modding just the display itself, the BIOS modification involved, and the myriad of other things. If any of that interests you even remotely, I'll leave a link in the description down below and you can dive down that rabbit hole as deep as you would like. Let's go ahead and tour the machine for the ports. We will start off on the left-hand side, and we have one USB 2.0 port, we have VGA, we have network, and we have a card bus slot, Type 2, and underneath of that we have an SD card. We also have a spot for the storage of the ThinkPad pen. Moving over to the right-hand side, we have the Kensington lock slot, the standard 20-volt power supply adapter plug. We have a 56K modem. This would be the place to access our hard disk. Over here we have the microphone and headphone jacks split, 2 more USB 2.0 ports, and a FireWire port. Along the front we actually have a physical kill switch for the Wi-Fi, as well as the latch to open the lid. On the inside of this particular unit we have a very standard and very high quality ThinkPad style keyboard that has probably some of the best key travel I've seen in one of these machines. Along the top we have the tablet specific controls. We do have a fingerprint reader, a directional button with a enter button in the middle. We have an escape key. We have a key for accessing a settings menu. We have a screen rotation button that will not happen by itself. We have a power button, and we have an ability to lock that power button to ensure that it is not accidentally pressed while it is in tablet mode, say running around in your bag. You will notice that on the bottom here we have 0 actual trackpad. This is a TrackPoint only machine, but if you're a ThinkPad enthusiast, then that really doesn't bother you. In fact, it might even be a benefit. So a couple of other things to note about the X61T series is that it's actually based off of the X61S series, not the X61. That was the slim model, and of course when you add a tablet display, it gets fat. If we take a look at the bottom, this came with 2 battery types. It came with the 4-cell, which was more flush to the machine, and then the 8-cell, which we see here. Now, there is some literature that says that if you are running an aftermarket 8-cell battery, that it will not fit on the dock that this was designed for. That very well could be true. I do not have the dock to test, but this is an aftermarket 8-cell battery. So before we get too far into anything else, let's go ahead and do a quick disassembly of the main components. If you're looking for more detailed instructions on how to service the machine, the maintenance manual, as always for these, will be in the description down below. So let's turn it over, remove the battery, and do some basic disassembly. With the machine flipped over, let's go ahead and do our basic disassembly. We've got our battery lock catch over here. Make sure it's unlocked. Pull the tab, pull the battery out, and place it off to the side. And the holes for everything are brightly labeled in contrasting off-white ink. We'll actually start with the hard drive, so that's this guy over here. We'll just go ahead and reach in there, grab the tab, and yank out this particular hard drive, and it is a standard Western Digital that's hanging out in here. And while I have this drive out, I really need to mention to you probably the most important modification that anyone could do to these laptops, and it is a BIOS mod. Now, the BIOS mod addresses a hardware issue that the X61 has, and that is, it actually has the hardware that is capable of SATA 2 speeds. However, with the official BIOS, it is currently capped at SATA 1. So if you want to get even a little bit of juice out of, say, a solid-state hard drive, which is a recommended upgrade in a machine like this, then I would suggest that you investigate the options of installing the BIOS that unlocks SATA 2 speeds. From what I've read, the reason that Lenovo chose to cap it was compatibility for older hard drives, but in the year 2019, nearly 2020, this is less of a concern. Keep in mind that you run your own risks by installing third-party BIOSes. However, this one's been around for a little while, so if you would like to try it out yourself, I'll leave the link in the description down below. I will not be doing it on this particular unit because it is not mine, and doing BIOS modifications without the consent of the owner is, bad form. Let's go ahead and continue on now that I've covered that. Over here we have some screws that'll give us access to our RAM slots. So let's go ahead and spin those screws out and remove that. And we have both of our RAM slots sitting pretty. And in this particular unit, we've got 2 and 2 for a total of 4. So if you want the maximum 8, you are swapping out both of those. So just be aware of that. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the keyboard and palm rest. So we have all the screws that are labeled for that. We're going to go ahead and just spin them out. And they're divided up into their categories, A, B, and C style of screws. So just be wary of that. So the first thing we'll do is just remove all the screws that are labeled Type C for the keyboard. And there are 4. There's one here, there's one here, there's one underneath of where the battery would be, and then there's one just off to the left here. So with those screws removed, I'm going to go ahead and turn the unit over and open it up. And it is worth noting that this catch can be pushed either way for latching the laptop. Move the keyboard forward, not even a wiggle is required, and we're going to go ahead and lift this up, and we can access a whole bunch of really neat stuff in here. So we'll just lean it forward like this, grab the tab, pull gently, and we have now removed this wonderful spill-resistant keyboard. We'll put that off to the side, and we can see that our CMOS battery is staring us right in the face, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and remove this palm rest and take a look at what is hiding under there for us. So we'll close the laptop yet again. We will turn it over, and we will remove all of the screws that have the palm rest pictogram on them. And there is one A style screw in the corner there, and it is very short. We're going to put that one off to the side. And the palm rest is split into 2 pieces, so we're only removing the screws for the bottom half because we're not removing the top half of the case. Once those screws have been removed, we can go ahead and open this back up. And then very carefully we are going to take, in this case, a pry tool that will be making its channel debut here, that someone was kind enough to get me. And we are going to find the edge of the case here and just gently pry up on the clips. And this one corner here seems to be of particularly fussy. So we're just going to go ahead and wiggle it out of place. And our pen should have been taken out before that. So we're just going to put the components for that back in place. So now that that's removed, we can see where our pen would normally sit and how that system works. And everything else has been laid bare for us. So over here we have our 2 MPCIe slots. One is currently being occupied by the Intel wireless card. This one is the model 4965AGN. A certain whitelist removal could allow you to use other cards as well that would be native to this machine. We have ourselves what appears to be our single firing speaker. And over here we have what should be our Bluetooth. as you can see, everything is very easily accessible and is very well protected. So we are going to go ahead and reassemble this and then turn it on. All right, now that we have the unit all back together, let's go ahead and open this up and turn it on. So as you can already tell, the screen is really not that bright. A good gust of sunlight would be more than enough to defeat this older panel. And with an older CPU and a mechanical hard drive, it's not going to win any Kentucky Derbies in terms of boot times. So one of the fastest ways to identify what kind of display that you're actually looking at is first attempt to touch the panel. If you get absolutely no reaction from your fingers, that already narrows it down for you. The other thing that you can of course check is the native display resolution. If it is 1024 by 768, you know exactly which of the two panels that you're looking at. And that's exactly what we've got. So this is kind of the lowest tier panel that was available with these units. And under certain operating systems, you will need to have lots of fun with the drivers to get a good amount of these buttons to actually function. Not impossible, but just something to be aware of. Pen support, though, is still a pretty decent experience. It is mostly calibrated. There was some issues of pen wandering and that sort of thing. Unlike many devices that are out there currently that are the X200 and higher, they still maintain a high level of practicality to them, even in the year or the end of the year 2019. However, this one doesn't necessarily follow into that. Batteries are, of course, going to be continuously difficult to find. The battery life, even when you find them, isn't absolutely stellar. I'm looking at 2.5 hours on battery saver at 92%. Again, nothing really amazing. If you're looking for tablets with pen support, there are better options out there. There isn't a lot that this particular unit does well that others can't do also. Lots of tinkering opportunities though, as I've talked about throughout the video. So what do you use a laptop like this for? I'm glad that you asked. So it turns out with a little bit of coercion, we can run at least Ion Fury on this. Keep in mind that was in a software mode in Windowed. Didn't tweak with it too much, but we were able to get it to run eventually there. At any rate, I would think it's about time to close off this video. If you've got any particular questions about this unit and some of its features, quirks, or just what to do with one of these if you happen to have one sitting in your closet, feel free to leave them in the description down below, and I would love to have a conversation about how you use this, how you did use it, or how you're planning on using it. Anyway, I'm going to leave the big four here at the bottom. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so in the year 2020 you will be up to date with all that's happening on the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.